So we're going to talk about Indian philosophy, and before venturing into that, today just I'll give you an overview of Indian philosophy and some basic concepts, okay, different schools and the rationale behind that, and some more concepts we will talk about. What is there in Indian philosophy? Okay, and this will help you in writing your paper. Okay, so first thing which you need to know when you study Indian philosophy is the term darshan. Okay, so when we talk about philosophy, we say Bharati darshan. Okay, Indian philosophy vis-a-vis Bharati darshan. So it means philosophy also, but it means something else also. So some technical differences are there. Try to keep that in mind. So, so what is its etymological meaning? Darshan is like, see, it's coming. Yeah, it's coming from this root dri. Okay, so which means simply to see. Okay, and it can mean vision or worldview. Okay, remember those things, cosmotheria, all those things, vision kind of thing it means. And but in our, in our context, this is going to mean school. Okay, so in philosophical parlance, when we say darshan, it also means a complete vision, but it also means, in fact quite often it will mean school, okay, or a system, right? So if I say that yoga darshan, okay, so in fact dual entendre is there, double meaning is there in darshan. So darshan also means the view of yoga and the school of yoga. Clear? So, and quite often you will see that it is used in this sense. Yoga darshan means school of yoga, and of course in school you will have a set of views, right? So this is first thing which you need to keep in mind. Somebody else is also there. Okay, Shilpa has joined us. Fine. Anyway, so these two ideas you must keep with you whenever you come across the word darshan. Literally, it means to see or to have a vision, but in our philosophical parlance, it will mean two things. Primarily, it will mean school, and indirectly, it will mean a system of entire, principles or views, right? So this is one important concept. And then we have very interesting classification of Indian darshanas. Now, when I once again say darshan, here also, can you guess the meaning?
Outlook, worldview,
Now,
philosophy.
once again, here it means school. Okay, so here it doesn't mean outlook, worldview. Of course, within a school, that particular school will have certain outlook, worldview, that is fine. But when I say classification of Indian darshanas, means classification of Indian schools. Okay, that is what my point was in the previous slide, because it can be sometimes misleading. Darshan, if you understand only the worldview or the overview, then it can be misleading. And but begin to be on the safe side, begin with the meaning of school. Okay, like we have in the university different schools, a school of social sciences, a school of international studies, all those things, right? So when we talk about classification of Indian darshana, so classification of Indian schools. Now here something interesting is there, and you must know for your general understanding also. We have one class, famous celebrated classification of Astic and Nastic darshanas. Okay. And in fact, I asked you also to do some exercise before coming to the class, looking for different schools of Indian philosophy. So, could any one of you tell me the meaning of Astic darshan and Nastic darshan? And here also, darshan means school. Clear? So, can anybody say something about?
Astic is, I think, East, and Astic who believes in God, existence of God, and Nastic who do not believe in the existence of God.
All right. Okay. So,
Astics are believer in authority of Vedas, and Nastic not believer in authority of Vedas.
true. Okay. So both the meanings are correct. But see, once again, see.
We use orthodox and heterodox for Astic and Nastic, right?
Are you Avantika?
Sir.
Okay, good. That is also an interesting point. We will talk about what is the meaning of orthodox and heterodox. But first, let's talk about Astic and Nastic. And in fact, you guys are all from language. Then you must know about this thing that words first of all have some root meaning, okay, or etymological meaning, and then the words also have contextual meaning. Is that clear? And often there is deviation from root meaning to some contextual meaning, right?
Yes, sir.
Clear? So this is the basic understanding of language if you are studying it deeply. So let us analyze this word, and don't be afraid of Sanskrit. And if you are studying language, then you should not be. See, some root is there which is asti. Asti nasti. Okay. So here we have asti, root asti or root asta. Okay. Clear? Can you recognize this? Now, asta is a root from Sanskrit language, and which simply means is or be. ठीक है? Something is called. If I want to say that pen is, what will I say? Pen asti. So exist. The box asti. The tablet asti. The laptop asti. Okay. Pen asti. All those things. Speaker asti. Earphone asti. Like that. In fact, is any one of you from French language?
No.
फ्रेंच में भी इसको ऐसे लिखते हैं EST. And are you from anyone from German language?
Yes, sir. Not from German language, but EST means
IST is there, which means is. ठीक है? So in different languages also different, we call it PIE, Proto-Indo-European languages. We have this simple root which is called the root of isness, and it has different forms like asta, ista, ist, okay, something like that. So asti or astic, now it's an adjective, and it will simply mean that somebody is saying that something is. So that's the literal meaning of this term astic. Getting it? And it further demands explanation. What? Now the question is, what is? Okay, if I say that something asti, then the obvious question is what? Okay, so that was the root meaning, something is. If you are a believer in the existence of somebody, then you are astic. So that's the etymological meaning of this particular term. Okay, now one contextual meaning is in the sense of, or in the field of theology. When in theology people talk about astic and nastic, then they are talking about the isness of God. if you believe that God is, then you are astic in the context of theology. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
I hope this is clear. And come to the other part. Nastic and na, you know, na is a negation. Okay. And Nastic means it doesn't exist. So Nastic in the context of theology means you say that God is not, simply, or God has no existence. So in that sense you can say Astic means theism, and or Astic means theist, and Nastic means an atheist. Clear? But that is in theological sense, and we are now trying to understand Astic and Nastic in philosophical context. So we come to context number 2. So this was context number 1. Now come to the context number 2. It can have many contexts. Okay, आस्तिक नास्तिक किसी भी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में लगा सकते हैं. It depends what you are talking about. So subject is missing. Okay, simply the verb is given there, is or is not, and the subject is missing. Subject we will import from different context. अब philosophy के context में क्या है? See, one thing is there called Vedas, है ना? Now what are Vedas? What does it contain? That's a very lengthy topic. Simply, it's a collection of our ancient books. Okay, ancient wisdom. So a corpus of body or body of knowledge simply is there, which is called Vedas. So Nastic and Astic in the context of Indian philosophy, even we're not talking about Western philosophy. Astic and Nastic in the context of Indian philosophy means Astic will say that Vedas exist. Okay, exist in the sense they are true. Clear? They are true, or whatever they contain is praiseworthy. They are giving us right knowledge and they should be followed. So that is how in your different books or in different articles it is given. Astic means those who believe in the authority of Vedas, and Nastic will mean somebody who doesn't believe in the authority of Vedas. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, ये बेसिक डिवीजन समझ में आया, बिकॉज दिस इज समटाइम्स gravely confusing to people, and because of our linguistic unclarity, we think that Astic means somebody theist and Nastic means somebody atheist. Astic, Nastic, actually they are neutral terms. Okay, as I told you, Astic simply means somebody who believes in the existence of something, and in theological context it means theism. In philosophical context, Astic means believer in Vedas, and so on and so forth. It can have different contexts. Clear? Is it clear, Mubassir?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay, fine. And somebody asked about orthodox and heterodox. ठीक है, अब एक बात और समझ लीजिए कि ये जो डिवीजन आया है ये ऑफ कोर्स आस्तिक लोगों ने दिया हुआ है. ठीक है, या फिर यूं कह लीजिए कि ऑर्थोडॉक्स और हेटेरोडॉक्स का जो डिवीजन आता है वो हमेशा ऑर्थोडॉक्स की तरफ से आता है. If you go to the root of that matter, then you will find that orthodox comes from, or this kind of division comes from those who are already orthodox. ठीक है, because orthodox, if you go to its root once again, it's a complimentary term. Today maybe it has become a pejorative term, but when you go to the root of this orthodox, then it's a complimentary term. How, orthodox simply means right opinion. Do you know about it? Right opinion. And compared to orthodox, if somebody deviates from orthodox, then that person or that organization is called heterodox. Now hetero is other and doxa is opinion, and in orthodox you have ortho is right or correct and dox is opinion. Okay, doxa we have in Platonic philosophy. So orthodox literally means right opinion and heterodox literally mean other opinion.
So, right opinion according to the books and traditional ways, not in generally right.
That is what I want to say. Here other means wrong, okay, or deviating. So that is my point. When actually this division is born, then this division is coming from orthodox people.
So basically they stated that the orthodox have the right opinion and the heterodox have the deviating or wrong opinion.
हाँ बिल्कुल, लेकिन अब मतलब बदल गया है इसका. Now actually we celebrate to be heterodox.
Okay, so the term is like taken it means that orthodox are of the wrong opinion and the heterodox are of the right opinion.
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. लिटरल देखिए, ऑर्थो मतलब होता है राइट और करेक्ट.
No, so the etymology, the word of the orthodox, the literal meaning is right opinion.
हाँ.
But as you said, the contextual meaning can be different.
कॉन्टेक्चुअल मीनिंग और कॉन्टेक्सचुअल मीनिंग मॉडर्न टाइम में बदल गई है.
Modern time. Yes,
पहले अब जिसने दिया होगा ये डिवीजन एक्चुअली में वो ऑर्थोडॉक्स ही रहा होगा, और कंपेयर टू ऑर्थोडॉक्स वी हैव हेटेरोडॉक्स. सो देयर वाज अ टाइम व्हेन हेटेरोडॉक्स पीपल वर परसिक्यूटेड. Okay, like when we say that Christian orthodoxy, so old established beliefs of Christianity. Islam orthodoxy, so old established right opinions of Islam. अगर कोई heterodox आ गया है तो he is having the other opinion and he shall be persecuted. That was the idea.
Okay.
Okay. अब मॉडर्निटी में क्या हो गया है कि अब ऑर्थोडॉक्स का मतलब गलत ही होता है हमेशा. Okay, we say, in a pejorative sense that this person is orthodox, old style, and old का मतलब generally हम
orthodox are considered progressive and conservative mostly.
हाँ, conservative term भी देखिए. अब conservative can be right also, can be wrong also, but generally we say that conservatives are wrong. Okay, but in fact you students, you people are the students of language, so you must know these distinctions. Okay, so orthodox, heterodox, ये term of course इंडियन फिलोसफी का तो है नहीं, और बाद में किसी ने इस पर इम्पोज कर दिया. तो वो भी वैदिक अगर रहा होगा तो वो कह रहा है कि आस्तिक इज राइट एंड नास्तिक इज रॉन्ग. Okay, so this kind of concept is there. So one major difficulty in understanding Indian philosophy is that it contains many archaic terms. Old Sanskrit terms are there, and you need somebody expert in Sanskrit language who can decode the terms and explain you in the context of 21st century. Okay, so that is how it becomes difficult. Okay, so let me just give you some more idea about this. Okay, so Astik will mean or will believe in the authority of Vedas, and Nastik will believe or will not believe in the authority of Vedas. So is that clear? Just simple, this basic bare opinion which I want to suggest.
Yes, it's clear.
Yes.
क्योंकि देखिए directly also I can tell you that this means that, this means that, but it will not make things clear. Okay, so you need to know the background. Okay, and this orthodox and heterodox also, be careful about this. Okay, in fact, if you know about Buddhism, let me tell you something more which could be interesting to you. So there are two branches in Buddhism roughly. Okay, one is called Heenyan. Can you all see the script? Devanagari, I think you can read.
Yes sir, so we can read.
तो एक ग्रुप है जिसको हीनयान कहते हैं, एक ग्रुप है जिसको महायान कहते हैं. Now yan is vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and heen is lower and maha is great.
Yes.
Now see, जो अर्ली बुद्धिस्ट थे उनको हीनयान कहा जाता है, जो लेटर बुद्धिस्ट है उनको महायान कहा जाता है. Now this division is also coming from Mahayan people, because in their opinion the early ones are of lower status. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
लेकिन हीनयान will not believe, or actually those who are the followers of early Buddhism, they are not going to believe in this kind of classification. Okay, they might say the reverse, that those who are saying that they are Mahayan, they are actually Heenyan and we are Mahayan. Okay, so this orthodox and heterodox division is something like that, and it keeps shifting its meaning. So this is how this has to be understood. Now one more thing is there which might be of some interest to you. Now why are we talking about Vedas, or in what context? Okay, or why at all we talked about Vedas? So let me take you to some other idea in Indian philosophy, one basic idea. One thing is called prayojan, okay, or purpose. Okay, or simply meaning, or simply you can say goal or aim, right? So one famous dictum is there in Indian philosophy which says something like this: prayojanam anudishya na pando api pravartate. अब इसका मतलब ये है कि विदाउट प्रयोजन और विदाउट पर्पस even a fool does not engage any action. Mand is, somebody who is an idiot. So this dictum is saying that, mand buddhi, so even an idiot will not engage in any action without any purpose, right? So this is one dictum in Indian philosophy, and it wants to say so many things, and one import is there, that whatever we do it for a purpose, and therefore there must be a purpose of life also in general. Okay, or see, whatever philosophy or darshan we are going to discuss, they also must have some prayojan or some aim, some objective, and without that they cannot exist. So let us talk about the purpose of life itself in general, or the life of human beings in general. Okay, so do you want to say something like what can be the purpose of human life? Okay, any conjectures, any ideas? Then I'll come to what they are saying is the purpose of life.
I think so. Progress of humanity.
Progress can be there. Okay, fine. So this is one ultimate principle. Anything else? Or final purpose?
Sir, can it be knowing self?
Self knowledge. True, good. Anything else? So technical term for final purpose in Indian philosophy is param purusharth. Okay, param is final. Nahi, param purusharth is the final purusharth. So we talk about 4 purusharth, but among these 4 purusharth or the objectives of human being, one is the final or the ultimate. Anyway, so there can be many param purusharth according to different people. Now, Indian philosophy in general says, okay, so this is what I want to propose, that it says that the param purusharth is some kind of happiness. ठीक है, or felicity, I would like to say. Clear? And these things are, somehow directly or indirectly connected to what you already said, self knowledge. So, if somebody is saying that knowing self is the final aim of human being, then they also want to say that when you come to know about yourself, then you will be ultimately happy. Okay. So in progress also they will say, yeah,
Can it also be called salvation?
salvation में भी क्या होगा, happy हो जाओगे. So actually if you go to the root of salvation or mukti or self knowledge or the knowledge of the God, then that is what I want to talk about. This is simply called the philosophy of hedonism. लेकिन यहाँ पे थोड़ा केयरफुल रहिएगा क्योंकि ये वेस्टर्न टर्म्स हैं. Now hedonism says that human beings have this psychological tendency that they want to maximize their pleasure and they want to minimize their pain. ठीक है? This is the philosophy or the theory of psychological hedonism. They want to maximize this and they want to minimize this. So all our efforts are directed towards, or they are governed by these two principles. ठीक है, तो प्लेजर बढ़ाना चाहेंगे या तो पेन कम करना चाहेंगे. अल्टीमेट प्रिंसिपल यही होता है अकॉर्डिंग टू दीज पीपल, एंड समथिंग सिमिलर is believed by Indian philosophers also. Okay, so you take the example of COVID-19. So why are we trying to discover a vaccine? Because we want to minimize the pain which is there because of this COVID-19. Okay, so such kind of reason is there behind all our actions. So we strive for happiness in or through our actions, and when we have salvation or when we have mukti or moksha, what happens there? So salvation is nothing but, let's say, 100% happiness and 0% pain. Okay, and exactly in these terminologies Indian philosophers talk about. You can call it self knowledge, you can call it final progress, you can call it param purusharth, but in the last stage what happens? There is 100% bliss, pleasure, and there is no pain at all. Okay, so all the philosophies will try to strive for such a condition. Okay, in fact there can be many other conditions also that will help you in understanding what I mean to say. See, so we want maximum happiness. ठीक है, अब ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है कि how much happiness we can have. So maximum happiness and minimum pain, this is what we want. Now the question is, to what extent? To what extent? So if you understood this point, the next point is to what extent. Let's say the scale can be 0 to 100. Here also the scale can be 0 to 100. Now what are different possibilities, or to what extent we can have maximum happiness and to what extent we can have minimum pain. So you can say that there are 3 or possibly 4 existential possibilities. What are those? Let us say this as happiness and pain. Okay, so one condition or possibility is there, that there is 100% happiness and conversely 0% pain. Now other opposite situation is that 0% happiness, 100% pain. Okay, the third is the combination of any number of percentage, like 40% happiness or 50 and so on so forth. Okay, it can be 20, 80 also. Life can be like this also. Okay, or life can be like this also, where you would like to commit suicide. Okay, 0% happiness and 100% pain. And life can be like this also. Okay, तो किन चीज़ों की पॉसिबिलिटी है, अब नाउ यू टेल मी. So this is one, this is condition number 2 or possibility number 2 and possibility number 3. So that's what I want to say. Life is a mixture of pain and happiness. Life is nothing but pain, life is nothing but happiness. So what is true according to you?
I think happiness can't be defined without pain, and pain can't be defined without happiness. Like they exist together. Like
that is fine.
Separate them.
हाँ ठीक है,
So
we cannot separate them. Fine, but is there any possibility that there can be a life or there can be one condition where both the things, that happiness and pain are there, but actually you are 100% happy? Okay, I am not denying that.
No, there could be any possibility that there will be 100% happiness or 100% pain. It can't be possible, like.
Okay, fine, good.
Because they exist, they can't exist without each other.
They can't exist. True. Okay, that is one view, right?
So in whole life, it can't be possible to have 100% happiness or pain, but in a moment, one can feel 100%.
That is what I'm saying. Let's say that moment is at the end, or that moment can be after life also. In fact, in whole life, what we have, see, a mixture of pain and happiness. This is quite evident. कोई देखो पूरा खुश नहीं है, कोई पूरा दुखी नहीं है, कोई थोड़ा सा खुश है, थोड़ा सा दुखी है, and we try to maximize our happiness, we try to minimize our pain, and we keep on playing this game. Okay, there is never happiness is never 100% and never pain is 100%, and almost all the people they keep on moving in this circle. Clear?
Yes.
देखिए, अब इंडियन फिलोसफी और इनफैक्ट रिलीजन्स और इंडियन फिलोसफी, these schools or most of these schools are saying that this first condition is possible. ठीक है, this is what actually is third condition. Most of the people think that life is just a mixture of pain and happiness, and we try to maximize our happiness and we try to minimize our pain, but ultimately we die and we can never achieve this, the number one goal, which is 100% happiness. So this remains like a distant utopia, it can be never achieved. But religions, I'm broadly speaking, okay, as far as my knowledge is concerned, religions or Indian philosophy or most Indian philosophical schools, they say that the first condition is possible. ठीक है, they are saying that this condition is possible where you can have maximum happiness and minimum pain. And in fact, Vedas are saying that maximum happiness is possible where there is no not an iota of pain. So this condition is called moksha. अब इसके बहुत सारे नाम भी होंगे. Somebody will call it mukti, ठीक है, some will call it आत्मज्ञान, Okay, some will call it samadhi. Different names are there in different philosophical schools, but what they want to say that there is maximum happiness and there is no pain, and this state in technical term is called the state of Anand. Okay, Anand is 100% bliss. Okay, so is that clear? Now why did I explain these things? Because Vedas are saying that this condition is possible. Okay, so that is premise number 2. First is that this condition is possible. Second point is that Vedas are saying that this condition is possible, and Vedas are going to give a way for this condition or to achieve this condition. Clear? 2 hypotheses I am making. And third point which you need to know, that these schools which you have in the previous slide, this one, this left hand side, these schools are simply saying that whatever Vedas are saying about the third condition, that is possible according to Vedas, and these particular schools are going to explain the same thing or trying to lead you to the same position in different ways. That's it. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. अब come to the other side of the picture. Now what these people are saying, इसमें देखिए 2 डिवीजन है बेसिकली. One division you can say is A, which contains Buddhism and Jainism, and then there is B, which is Charvak. Now B is Nastic in a specific sense, that B or Charvak is saying that the third condition is not possible. ठीक है? I'm referring to our third view, which was 100% happiness and 0% pain, technically the state of Anand or bliss or moksha, that is not possible according to Charvak. And by implication, Vedas are, you can say, useless or irrelevant, you can say. Clear?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. If this is clear, then we move to the first group. Now Buddhism and Jainism. So this is a crucial difference between Charvak and Buddhism and Jainism, because these people are saying that the condition 3 is possible. Condition 3 is possible because for Buddhism that particular state is called Nirvana. ठीक है? And for Jainism that particular state is called Kaivalya. ठीक है? So these people are saying that the condition 3 is possible, but then why are they Nastic? They are saying that Vedas are not the way. Okay? Or you can say that Vedas are not the only way. Condition 3 is possible, or possibility of 3 is there, but come to me, I will give you a different way. That was how Buddha have said things. Buddha would have said that this condition is possible 3, but Vedas are not the only way. Or you can say that Vedas may mislead you also. Come to me, I will give you a different way. Jainism will also say, come to me, condition number 3 is possible and I will teach you a different way. Charvak will say that all the people, A, and let's call this group C. A and C both are stupid because this condition is impossible and they are trying to mislead you, all these previous people. Okay, so you see how we have three groups of people or three schools in Indian philosophy depending on what they say about the condition number 3 or the possibility of condition number 3. Okay, so if that is clear, then let me know, then we can proceed, or if you have any
Yes,
doubt
sir.
then let me know.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
ठीक है, तो ये इसका आधार है.
Is the philosophic. Hello.
हाँ.
Yes, sir. I was saying basically the philosophical definition of Astic and Nastic as that the one who believe in Vedas and the one who do not believe in Vedas.
लेकिन उसके पीछे का बैकग्राउंड या उसके पीछे का रेशनल इज दिस. ठीक है, because if you don't understand this particular point, then you keep on confusing yourself between Buddhism, Jainism, even Charvak also. You see how Buddhism and Jainism are similar and how Buddhism and Jainism are different from Charvak, because Charvak is saying condition 3 is impossible, you are an idiot. Okay,
Yes, yes.
if you strive for condition number 3, and this particular school is called materialism. ठीक है, in Indian philosophy it
Yes.
says that don't strive for such things, it will make you mad, it will make you crazy, just enjoy the life to its fullest extent, and if you try to strive for this particular goal, then people or these people will exploit you. Okay, or chances of exploitation are there, because this is virtually impossible, and wherever you go you are trying to achieve something impossible, then ultimately there will be more frustration. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Jainism, Buddhism, they agree in one sense. In what sense? That they are saying that this condition is possible. Now Jainism will say that maybe don't go to Buddhism, don't go to Vedas, and forget about Charvak. Come to me, Jainism will say. Buddhism will say, come to me, I give you certain principles which will lead you to Nirvana. Okay, so you see how there is an interplay of these three people and the rationale behind Astic and Nastic division.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it's a debatable issue. How do we classify Astic and Nastic? And some people have tried to debunk this theory or this distinction, that Astic Nastic distinction should be absolutely removed from our books. But nevertheless, I find it interesting, and it can give you some basic idea about the trends in Indian philosophy. ठीक है,
Yes, sir.
इतना समझ में आ गया सबको, तब आगे बढ़े, नहीं तो फिर और भी कोई प्रश्न हो तो ले सकते हैं. अब ये डिफरेंट स्कूल्स हैं, इनके बारे में हम आपको थोड़ा सा बता देंगे और फिर एक्चुअली एपिस्टेमोलॉजी में चलेंगे. ठीक है, आज तो नहीं करेंगे एपिस्टेमोलॉजी. आई विल गिव यू एन ओवरव्यू ऑफ दीज स्कूल्स and the next sessions we'll talk about epistemology. So far any queries?
Sir, so
No question.
hello.
Mm-hmm.
So I was saying, can we say that Buddhism and Jainism were following idealism?
अब देखिए, in Buddhism also there are many schools. Okay, in Buddhism there are realist school also and idealist school also. Okay, so it has both. So the answer to your question is both, yes and no, both. ठीक है, इसके पहले अभी हमने जैसे हीनयान और महायान की बात की ना, two schools of Buddhism. So in Mahayana you have idealism. Yeah. In Heenyan you have some kind of crude realism. ठीक है, तो इस तरह से चीजें हैं. So I think we should go ahead, and this also keep this also principle in mind, that prayojanam anudishya na mando api pravartate. Nobody engages in any action without any purpose, and the ultimate purpose of our life is to achieve maximum happiness and minimize our pain. And the condition 3 is there we talked about, and then there can be various responses to this, to the possibility of this condition 3. That was our discussion so far. Okay, now all those different schools which we had. Now we are limiting ourselves to the left hand side of the figure, okay, or of the division. आस्तिक, आस्तिक की ही बात करेंगे अब. नास्तिक वालों को they are not in our syllabus, right? So 6 schools we have in Astic philosophy. And now you see what kind of things do they contain. This is also interesting. See, they will first of all contain the entire worldview. Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya Vaisheshik, Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa, all these schools first of all will contain a complete worldview. Okay, they will have a complete synoptic understanding of the world. So they will touch different issues of life. All these schools, such as metaphysics, they will talk about physics, they will talk about cosmology, psychology, epistemology, they will talk about theory of knowledge, they will talk about logic and reasoning. They also talk about ethics, what to do and what not to do, theory of right and wrong. Axiology they will talk about, okay, the science of values. They will also talk about aesthetics, okay, things about beauty. Soteriology is also there, okay, like moksha. Okay, rituals and meditations also they will talk about, etc. Okay, so what I mean to say that whenever any particular school you pick up, let's say you pick up yoga or yoga darshana or yoga darshan, okay, then first of all it contains the entire worldview. Keep this in mind. Okay, it will have some metaphysics also, some cosmology, psychology, epistemology, logic, reasoning, all those things it will have. So yoga is, it doesn't mean simply just physical exercises. It has so many things. In fact, it has a complete worldview. That is why it is called a darshan. Okay, if it is not a darshan, or if it doesn't contain all these things, then it cannot be called a complete darshan. Okay, so yoga is a very broad term. It contains, of course, physical exercises also, but physical exercises is just, you can say, 1% of the philosophy of yoga. Okay, so in fact, in the first book of yoga, which is called Yoga Sutra, there are 196 lines, you can say, or aphorisms, and only one or maybe two aphorism or lines they talk about physical exercises. So you can calculate the percentage and how it has become a misnomer these days, courtesy of very famous people. So just one or two sutras are talking about physical exercises. So can you say that yoga philosophy is all about exercises? No, it contains many other things also, and it has a complete worldview. So this is one point which I want to submit, that all the philosophies, they have some entire worldview. Or remember, we talked about cosmotheria, the synoptic understanding of the universe. Okay, so that is point number 1. Now second thing is that all these schools will have some specialization also. Okay, despite the general worldview, the schools will have certain specialization also. Okay, so for example, yoga is there, so it has a complete worldview also. At the same time, it has a specialization also, and in this context, the specialization is in somewhat, you can say, psychology. So it talks more about our human psyche or human mind, right? So any darshan you pick up from these 6 schools, it's gonna have some worldview also, and at the same time it will have some specialization also. And we are just going to talk about these specialization of different schools, and then we will wind up. Okay, so let me just briefly tell you. Okay, one is Sankhya Darshan, or the school of Sankhya. Now it has a worldview, and it has some specialization also, and the specialization here is cosmology. So I hope you are getting this idea. Sankhya is talking about philosophy in general also, and specialization is in cosmology, or you can say Sankhya is the Indian cosmology. You know how the universe begins, the first principle, how does it evolve, so from the microcosm to the macrocosm. Okay, then we have Yog Darshan, as we just talked about. Okay, so it has one simple worldview of life also, and then it has the specialization of psychology also. Okay, and this is the sage picture of sage Patanjali, who was the founder of our yoga philosophy. And now I have put this picture deliberately because this thing must be made clear, that Patanjali is not just the Patanjali organization which we have, which sells Ayurvedic stuffs. Okay, Patanjali actually was the founder of the yoga school, and he lived in somewhere before Christ in BC, and he's very old. Okay, so Sage Patanjali was the founder or compiler of Yoga Darshan. Okay, not the modern Patanjali industry. Okay, then we have Nyaya Darshan. Now Nyaya Darshan has the specialization of logic, okay, or reasoning. It has other things also, but if you want to study about Indian logic, then you go to Nyaya Darshan, or the text of Nyaya Darshan. Then you have Vaisheshik. In fact, it's written like this. Darshan, which is about physics. Okay, so it has a lot of physics as we understand today. Okay, like for example, in Vaisheshik Darshana, you will find discussions about atoms and molecules. Okay, and these are very old philosophies. All are in BC, originating in BC. So it talks about a lot of things about physics, right? Then we have Purva Mimamsa Darshan. Now Purva Mimamsa Darshan talks about hermeneutics. Okay, and what is hermeneutics here? The science of sentence interpretation. How do we interpret certain sentences? Okay, so in Purvamimamsa, Indian hermeneutics is there, and it also in fact contains rituals or things about rituals. But keep this thing in mind, that Purvamimamsa has rituals, but through rituals it wants to teach you hermeneutics. Okay, so primary goal is just hermeneutics. Rituals are taken just as a support to explain hermeneutics. Okay, so because in many readings you might come across this thing, that Purvamimamsa Darshan contains rituals, which would be a bit misleading. It doesn't contain rituals, but it teaches you interpretation of rituals, and then you can learn the rules of interpretation, and then you can apply those rules of interpretation to anything in fact. Okay, so what does it teach? It teaches you hermeneutics. Okay, so it is a science of hermeneutics or sentence interpretation. Now we have our last darshan, the sixth one, which is called Uttar Mimamsa Darshan, and its specialization is in the you can say science of self knowledge. or the science of knowing God. Okay, God is a technical term in Indian philosophy. Brahma. Okay, not Brahma, who is somebody else, but Brahma means God. Okay, so science of self-knowledge or God, that is called, that is contained in Uttar Mimamsa Darshan, right? And for your information, let me tell you that you must have heard about Vedanta. Now Vedant is nothing but Uttar Mimamsa, what we just talked about. Uttar Mimamsa is also called Vedant. Okay, and you have three great sources of Vedant, or the teachings of Vedant are based on Upanishads, Brahma Sutra, and the classical Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so is that clear? So that was just an overview about the specialization of different schools. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we come back to this division. Sankhya is cosmology, yoga is psychology, Nyaya is reasoning, logic, Vaisheshik contains physics, Purva Mimamsa contains hermeneutics, and Uttar Mimamsa contains science of self-knowledge or God realization. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
And all these schools contain epistemology also. Now epistemology, you already know, is the theory of knowledge. All these schools, despite their specialization, they contain epistemology, and from the next session onwards we will talk about their epistemology in general. And in fact, what I will do, we are not going to talk about the epistemology of all these schools, but we are just going to talk about the epistemology of Nyaya. Okay, so this will just give you an understanding of what kind of epistemology is there in Indian philosophy. In fact, a bit about Nyaya and something about Uttar Mimamsa also we can talk about if we have time. Or if you remember, we have 6 ways of knowing. So 4 we can learn from Nyaya, and the last 2 we can learn from Uttar Mimamsa. Okay. So next time or in the next sessions, I'll just give you an overview of those pramanas and how they have been described in the philosophy of Nyaya. Okay, or let me just tell you what we are going to do in our next sessions. Okay, so we will talk about Nyaya philosophy, and in Nyaya philosophy there is a text called Nyaya Sutra, which contains many aphorisms or short sentences, and we will simply talk about 4 sentences. Okay, so one sentence will pertain to perception, sentence number 2 will pertain to inference. Sentence means aphorism here. Okay, I'm not using aphorism, but sentence number 3 will talk about comparison, and sentence number 4 will talk about verbal testimony. Okay, so this is how I was thinking.
What are the other 2 aphorisms sentences?
देखिए 2 और हैं, 5 and 6. 5 is non-existence. ठीक है, and 6th is postulation. This we can learn from Vedanta or Uttar Mimamsa if we have time. Otherwise, what I was thinking that we can just take up 4 sentences from this particular book. This is a book from Nyaya philosophy, or the first book of Nyaya philosophy, and I'll just give you a flavor of this text, and I'll explain you 4 sentences directly from the text. Okay, one pertaining to perception, one pertaining to inference, and one to comparison, and one to verbal testimony. And then in very short discussion we can talk about this last two methods of knowing also. And this is going to give you a flavor also how the texts are written, and in fact how interesting they are, and how much knowledge is packed within them. Okay, so in just one line we will understand perception in one. So it's, in fact, those are definitions. I would try to explicate the definitions. So 4 sentences, maybe 3 or 4 classes or sessions we can finish, and then you can write your papers accordingly. Okay, so if we get time we can complete all the methods of knowing. Okay, so this is what I propose to do in our next sessions, and now let me know if you have any problem or in understanding these contexts. Okay.
Yes, sir, I have a question.
Now please ask.
So you talked about 6 schools. Samkhya, Yoga, and philosophy. So as we know that any philosophy or any ideology is carried by like living being, human being. So was there any conflict these 6 schools, or was like they belong to same group or something?
Domain. They belong to same domain.
Yeah.
Similarity is that they all agree that Vedas are true. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But they contest with each other also, because they have minor differences also. ठीक है, क्योंकि कंप्लीट वर्ल्ड व्यू है, तो वर्ल्ड व्यू में कुछ चीज़ें तो अलग हो ही जाएंगी. अगर सारी सेम हो तो फिर हमें अलग फिलॉसफी बनाने की जरूरत ही क्या है ना.
But I think primarily they would be carried by the like upper classes of the society only.
नहीं, इस तरह से कुछ नहीं है. ठीक है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. ऐसा कोई क्लास डिस्टिंक्शन नहीं है कि इस क्लास के लोग ये पढ़ेंगे, इस क्लास के लोग ये पढ़ेंगे, ऐसा नहीं. ठीक है. सो डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट्स है. अब साइकोलॉजी किसी को पढ़ना है, कोई भी पढ़ सकता है. ओके. And they are nevertheless interdependent, complementary and supplementary. And in fact you have sometimes these two groups also. Sankhya Yoga is studied together. They are called sister schools. Nyaya Vaisheshik is also studied together, and Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa, they are also studied together. So some people study like this also in pairs, because they are complementary and supplementary to each other. Okay.
Sir, I have one question.
Please ask.
Uttar Mimamsa, those who believe in Uttar Mimamsa, Vedanta, they believe in Brahma. So the people of other philosophies, like Yoga, Samkhya, did they also believe Brahma, or like they didn't believe in like God? They believe in Veda, they believe in moksha, but they didn't believe in Brahma.
So it can be, possibilities are there that they believe in moksha or the third condition, remember, but at the same time they cannot believe in a God.
Yes sir, because they are from the different philosophy.
Different philosophies हो सकती है. Like in Sankhya, few people are there who do not believe in God. तो इस तरह से देखिए, ये हैं तो आस्तिक, लेकिन अपने वो थियोलॉजिकल सेंस में they are becoming नास्तिक. Okay.
That's why this Astic and Nastic.
Or that is why this is Astic and Nastic is troublesome. It is irksome. Okay.
So
see, let me tell you something more. Like in yoga philosophy, they will talk about Ishwar, but they will not talk about Brahma. और ब्रह्म और ईश्वर में टेक्निकल डिफरेंसेस हैं. ठीक है. तो इस तरह से कॉन्सेप्ट्स अलग अलग हैं, एंड डिफरेंट thin boundaries are there. Good. Okay, good question. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, then shall we wind up? and perhaps we can meet tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I need 4 more sessions to go through all those 4 aphorisms which I was talking about from Nyaya philosophy, and then things can be completed. ठीक है?
Okay.
So maybe day after tomorrow try to digest these concepts, and now once again go through all the descriptions which you have regarding the classifications of Indian philosophy, and I'm sure that you will understand them quite easily now. ठीक है?
Okay.
तो एक बार पढ़ लीजिए, क्योंकि ये बैकग्राउंड का ये जो डिवीजन है, ये इसका नॉलेज होना बहुत आवश्यक है. ठीक है?
Okay.
क्योंकि अब इसके बिना अब अगर आप कोई बुक पढ़ेंगे एपिस्टेमोलॉजी की या इंडियन फिलोसफी की, तो ये तो मतलब बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट्स हैं, इसके बिना समझ में नहीं आएगा. ठीक है?
Okay.
And the danger is that it might disenchant you, क्योंकि because a lot of wisdom is contained in Indian philosophy. अगर आपको पहला ही चैप्टर समझ में ना आए तो फिर आप आगे बढ़ेंगे ही नहीं. So such things can also be there. ठीक है, तो अपने अपने हिसाब से अध्ययन कर लीजिए, and then we will talk about our next session on the group. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, bye bye. All of you take care, stay safe, and thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you,
Welcome.
sir.